Prepare yourself, because what I'm about to share with you today is not just another investment advice, the kind you hear and forget minutes later. No. What you're about to hear is a warning, serious, direct, but at the same time, an opportunity that few will have the courage to seize. Imagine standing before a door that opens only once in a lifetime, and on the other side of it could be the financial future you've always wanted for yourself and your family. That's exactly what's happening now with silver. A big movement is coming, and when I say big, I'm not talking about a gentle tide that comes and goes. I'm talking about a wave capable of changing the destiny of those who know how to see it before others. If you have silver today, or if you're at least starting to think about having it, this could be the moment to write a different chapter in your financial story. This is where a legacy is defined. Think with me. While most people chase after the fleeting shine of financial fads, the trendy stocks, the cryptocurrencies that promise to multiply fortunes overnight, or any novelty that seems to be the next miracle, silver remains there, silent, patient, but firm. It doesn't need to chase trends. On the contrary, it's the trends that sooner or later end up chasing after it. And that's what may be about to happen. Not a slow, dragging growth, the kind that goes unnoticed, but a sudden surge, capable of surprising even the most confident analysts. Imagine a spring compressed for years. When it's released, there's no way to control the force of the movement. That's how it works with assets like silver. The future is already knocking at the door. Only the difference between those who win and those who lose lies in having the courage to hear that call and act before the majority. Remember how silver was treated for so long, as if it were just gold's younger brother, that forgotten piece in the corner of the shelf, ignored while everyone looked the other way. For years it floated discreetly, rising and falling without stealing the spotlight. Meanwhile, thousands of investors were busy chasing easy opportunities, believing that wealth would come overnight with numbers flashing on a screen. But silver, patiently, continued fulfilling its role, as every real asset does, preserving value, standing firm, waiting only for the moment when the world would remember its true importance. And it's precisely this silent persistence that gives silver its greatest strength today. Because when the crowd finally awakens, it's too late to get the best price. The last decade gave us lessons that no one can ignore. It was a period marked by excesses, by decisions that seemed to solve problems in the short term, but that actually planted seeds of fragility in the global economic system. Central banks, in an attempt to avoid collapses, flooded the markets with cheap money. It was as if they had opened the credit faucets without thinking about tomorrow. And what happens when you print currency without limits? The value of money begins to wear away, silently, like a fabric that tears little by little. At the same time, governments went into debt as if there would never be consequences. Trillion-dollar debts were accumulated at a speed never seen before. It was as if everyone believed they could spend without responsibility, because somehow magically the bill would never come. But it always comes. And it was precisely in this environment that inflation knocked at the door. At first, in almost imperceptible whispers, that small increase in the price of bread, gasoline, energy, something that seemed temporary. But over time, the whisper turned into a roar. With each trip to the supermarket, with each bill paid, people began to feel in their pockets that money no longer bought the same as before. And what happened to silver during this period? It didn't disappear. On the contrary, it remained firm, absorbing each impact, each violent oscillation of global economies. When fear arose, whether from stock market crashes, currency crises, or political instabilities, silver appeared as a silent shield. For those who understood its true value, it was there, like a fortress that doesn't shake easily. While stocks hit record highs and then plummeted within months, while digital currencies rose like rockets and then imploded like sandcastles, silver continued fulfilling the same role as always, being the real counterweight against the madness of the markets. That's what differentiates silver from passing fads. It doesn't need exaggerated promises because it already has its value base solidified in reality. It is, and always has been, an asset that survives storms. Look at the fundamentals that support this silent journey of silver. We're not talking about something based only on speculation or promises on paper. We're talking about an asset that carries real utility, indispensable at the base of the modern economy. Every day, the demand for silver grows in a way almost invisible to most people. You may not notice, but silver is in practically everything around us. It's used in solar panels, which fuel the energy revolution of the 21st century. It's present in electric vehicles, which are replacing combustion cars and shaping the future of mobility. It's in computers, cell phones, medical devices, communication cables. In other words, every step humanity takes toward technology and innovation increases dependence on this metal. Every time someone buys a new cell phone, installs a solar panel on the roof, or drives an electric car, the demand for silver grows. It's a solid consumption base that doesn't depend only on investors or financial fads. And while demand skyrockets, supply doesn't keep up at the same pace. That's because finding new silver deposits is not something simple. And even when a deposit is discovered, the path until the mine is producing can take a decade or more. It's an expensive, time-consuming process full of regulatory and environmental obstacles. In other words, when demand rises, there isn't a magic button that producers can press to throw more silver into the market. This natural limitation creates something very powerful: scarcity. And scarcity is, historically, the engine that pushes prices up. This combination, growing demand and restricted supply, creates a silent pressure, invisible to most, but clear to those who understand the fundamentals. It's like a dam that fills up gradually. The public doesn't notice until the water starts to overflow. And here's the point. Each innovation, each technological advance, each new need of the modern economy is like one more drop in that dam. Sooner or later, the accumulated force will be so great that there will be no way to hold it back. Consider for a moment how investors behaved during the last big wave of inflation. Haste, greed, and lack of patience took over. Many threw themselves into assets they barely understood, believing they could get rich quickly, as if they were betting on a winning lottery ticket. It was a frenzied rush into trendy cryptocurrencies, miraculous stocks that promised to double in value in weeks, or any promise that shone brightest in the financial news. But in the end, most of these investments proved to be an illusion. They rose like a rocket, but also plummeted like a stone. And in the midst of all this euphoria, the oldest lesson of all was forgotten. Protect your wealth in something real. Something you can touch, keep, and know it will continue to have value, no matter what central bankers, politicians, or algorithms decide. Silver, unlike papers full of promises, is tangible. You can hold a bar or a silver coin in your hands, feel the weight of the security it carries. You can store it outside the banking system in a safe, away from the oscillations of electronic markets and politicians' speeches. And here's the crucial point. No decree, no stroke of a pen, no monetary policy announcement can erase the intrinsic value of silver. It doesn't depend on trust in third parties, but on its own essence as a valuable and useful metal. Over time, this truth always prevails. As more people realize the limits of paper currency, which can be printed infinitely, they begin to seek refuge in something that cannot be manipulated in the same way. It's at this moment that silver stops being forgotten and begins to stand out. And when this movement of collective consciousness happens, the price of silver doesn't rise slowly, step by step. It shoots up, first discreetly, almost imperceptibly to those who don't follow closely. But then, in an accelerated way, taking many by surprise, the charts tell their own story, and they don't lie to those who know how to read their signals. Silver, over the last few years, has shown a clear and consistent pattern. Every time it breaks an important resistance level, it holds firm, even when other commodities stumble. This means that, unlike assets that rise only on speculation and then collapse without support, silver builds its trajectory step by step, like a staircase that leads to increasingly higher levels. It's true that at some moments there were pullbacks. These movements drove away impatient investors, those who want immediate results. But for those who have patience and long-term vision, each pullback was just an entry opportunity before the next jump. This behavior shows something important. The market is gradually recognizing the truth about silver. It's not about passing euphoria or exaggeration. It's about a growing perception that this metal has greater value than what's reflected in current prices. Each higher low, each narrowing trading range is like the market whispering, a big movement is coming. It's the equivalent of hearing thunder before the storm. And history is clear about this. When silver finally breaks free from its chains, it doesn't rise slowly, doesn't walk on tiptoes. It shoots up with force, surprising even those who already believed in its potential. It's like a horse race. Everyone is looking at the favorite, but suddenly the horse that was in the background shoots forward with unexpected speed and crosses the finish line first. That's how silver is when it breaks through its barriers. Think for a moment about what's happening now before our eyes. The financial world is experiencing one of those periods when the tectonic plates of the economy begin to move at the same time. And when that happens, nothing stays the same. Look at the central banks. After having raised interest rates aggressively to try to contain inflation, they're now starting to show signs that they won't be able to maintain that pressure for much longer. The truth is that global debt levels are so high that high interest rates function like a time bomb. Just wait to see where it will explode first. Sooner or later, history shows they always make the same move. They reduce interest rates or go back to printing currency to avoid collapse. But every time they do this, the purchasing power of paper money melts a little more. And it's at this moment that tangible assets, like silver, begin to shine. Meanwhile, currencies oscillate around the world. Governments print to cover gigantic deficits, further fueling distrust in the system. And on the opposite side, industrial growth, mainly linked to green technology, accelerates non-stop. Solar panels, electric cars, batteries, and medical equipment all depend on silver as an essential input. These currents, all at the same time, push the tide in one clear direction. More demand, less supply, and an increasing perception that silver is undervalued. Want simple proof? Just look at the gold-silver ratio. Historically, there has always been a certain balance between the two metals, but today, this ratio is far above normal standards, a clear sign that silver needs to recover to rebalance this scale. And when this correction happens, it's usually not slow. It's fast and intense. It's like a spring stretched beyond its limit. The longer it stays tensioned, the stronger the impact will be when it's released. This journey is not just about price charts or cold production numbers. It is, above all, a question of mindset. Because investing in silver is not about seeking immediate gains or trying to predict next week's movement. It's about long-term vision, patience, and discipline. For years, silver tested the patience of those who believed in its potential. There were moments when it seemed forgotten, ignored, as if it had lost relevance. And in those periods, many gave up, sold too early, traded the certain for the fleeting shine of momentary trends. But those who remained firm, those who understood that wealth is not built overnight, were rewarded. Because silver always comes back to show its strength, and rewards precisely those who don't let themselves be carried away by anxiety. This is where one of the greatest lessons in finance comes in. Wealth doesn't favor the impatient. The great financial movements in history have always benefited those who knew how to wait in silence, quietly accumulating while others were distracted. While many ran after passing fads, a few were silently building their positions in something real, solid, lasting. These investors who seemed stuck to outsiders' eyes are now on the verge of a turning point. And this teaches something even greater. True assets, those that have actual value, don't deliver their fruits overnight. They mature over time, like a tree planted in fertile soil, which needs patience before offering shade and fruit. Silver is exactly like that. It frustrated the impulsive, but strengthened the disciplined. And now, when the scenario is preparing for a turnaround, those who believed and kept calm are about to reap the greatest gains. The story of silver is, above all, a story of resistance, of scarcity, and of silent strength. It waited years, decades even, being ignored, underestimated, almost invisible to most. But the truth is that the market always rewards reality. And the reality of silver is that it has intrinsic value, concrete utility, and a natural scarcity that only increases over time. With each period of neglect, silver accumulated strength. It absorbed economic shocks, resisted financial crises, and remained firm when other assets failed. It didn't need spotlights, sensational headlines, or recommendations from internet gurus. Its solidity was in its own metal, in its own utility. And now, the world is about to realize this. Silver has been quietly preparing for a breakthrough. Those who understand its history know that the next chapter could be fast and intense, unlike anything we've seen in recent years. It's important to realize we're not talking about a linear trajectory without ups and downs. The path to here was full of discrete movements, often unnoticed. But each of these movements built the foundation for something bigger. Each small appreciation, each pullback, each narrower trading range is like the market saying, "Get ready, something big is coming." And it's at this moment that the patient investor is separated from the impulsive one. Those who waited, accumulated, understood the fundamentals, and kept calm are now in the ideal position. Silver is not just moving, it's about to shoot up, and those who understand it will be in the right place at the right time. In this scenario, the world faces clear signs of financial instability. Tremors are emerging in markets, in politics, and in currencies. You don't need to be an expert to realize that something big is forming. Just open your eyes to the repeated patterns of economic history. When monetary policies, limited supply, and human psychology meet, the results are explosive. Silver, more than ever, is ready to fulfill its role. And whoever understands this silent force today will be able to benefit enormously tomorrow. At this moment, the world is on the verge of a financial failure, and the signs couldn't be clearer. It's not a distant prediction or a hypothetical scenario. The tremors are happening now, in real time. Just look around. Unstable markets, indebted governments, oscillating currencies, and central banks again signaling changes in monetary policy. You don't need a crystal ball to see this. Just open your eyes and observe the global economic reality. Every decision to print money, every growing deficit, every currency oscillation sends a signal. We're entering a period of turbulence that tends to favor those who own real assets. And that's exactly where silver comes into the picture. When all these forces, loose monetary policies, supply limits, and human behavior meet, we're not talking about a simple, gradual appreciation movement. We're talking about a true financial rocket, an impulse that can transform the wealth of those who are prepared. Look at the big picture. Central banks spent years raising interest rates to contain inflation, but they can't sustain this pressure for much longer. Global debt is so high that high rates function as a trap, If they're maintained, they can trigger crises. If they're reduced, cheap money enters circulation again, eroding the purchasing power of currency. When this occurs, history shows that tangible assets like gold and silver appreciate rapidly. And here's the crucial detail. While gold receives the most public attention, silver, the more forgotten sister, reacts with even more positive volatility. It's more sensitive to changes and therefore can provide substantial gains in a relatively short period. Meanwhile, inflation doesn't disappear. Food, energy, housing, all everyday costs continue to rise, and every family feels this in their own wallet. It's in this environment that silver stands out. It's both a monetary metal and an essential industrial input, which gives it unique leverage in the market. It's no exaggeration to say the opportunity is forming before us. Those who perceive these signs and act with courage and discipline may be at the forefront of a movement that few will be able to follow. We've reached the crucial point. The story of silver is not just about numbers, charts, or market predictions. It's about opportunity, vision, and courage. The world is moving toward a scenario that favors those who understand the value of real assets, and silver, silent, patient, and resilient, is ready to shoot up. Look around. Central banks, which spent years raising interest rates to contain inflation, know they can't maintain this strategy indefinitely. Global debt is enormous, and sooner or later it will be necessary to reduce rates or print more currency to avoid collapse. Every time this happens, paper money loses purchasing power, and tangible assets like silver gain strength. Meanwhile, inflation gives no respite. The prices of food, energy, housing, and services continue to rise, eroding confidence in currency. And in this economic storm, silver is not just a safe haven, it's an asset that grows with the very evolution of industry, green technology, and innovation. Solar panels, electric vehicles, electronics, medical equipment, everything depends on silver. And here's the decisive point. Those who understood its history, who remained patient and disciplined, are now ahead of most. They didn't chase trends, they accumulated something real, tangible, that resists time and crises. The next great appreciation of silver won't just be a possibility. It will be a natural consequence of decades of solid fundamentals, scarcity, and growing demand. Therefore, if you're watching this video and feel it's time to act, do so with clarity, planning, and courage. Silver doesn't wait for anyone, but rewards those who recognize it before the crowd awakens. Remember, opportunities like this don't appear every day. The moment is now, the scenario is forming, and the future can be defined by the choices you make today. If you want to continue receiving valuable content like this, stories that show how to protect and multiply your wealth, like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any of the next insights that can transform your relationship with money and investments. And now, I leave you with a question to reflect on. Are you ready to act before most people realize the true value of silver? Therefore, if you're watching this video and feel it's time to act, do so with clarity, planning, and courage. Silver doesn't wait for anyone, but rewards those who recognize it before the crowd awakens. Remember, opportunities like this don't appear every day. The moment is now, the scenario is forming, and the future can be defined by the choices you make today. If you want to continue receiving valuable content like this, stories that show how to protect and multiply your wealth, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share this opportunity with those who need to hear this message. That way, you help other people also prepare for what's to come.